Kayden Mancuso was a normal 7-year-old to so many of her friends and relatives. She was a gifted athlete and a hard-working student who enjoyed singing and dancing around the home and even participated in local pageants. Kayden's beautiful life, however, was ended prematurely in an instant on August 6. Welcome to Viral Crimes. Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more stories. Jeffrey Mancuso, Kayden's biological father, murdered his daughter inside his Philadelphia residence before killing himself after a years-long custody dispute with her mother. Kathy Sherlock met Jeffrey Mancuso on the Jersey Shore one summer and thought he was charming at first. Their relationship is described as a fling by Kathy Sherlock. They never married, but Kathy said, after she discovered she was pregnant with Kayden, they moved in together. I thought that's what I had to do. Not to be in a relationship with him, but to try for Kayden, to give her 2 parents, Kathy Sherlock said. It wasn't a romantic relationship. We slept in separate rooms. Given the distant relationship between Kayden's biological parents, Allison Mancuso, Mancuso's sister, stated their father-daughter connection was very solid. Kayden was one of the few bright lights in her brother's life, according to Allison Mancuso, who claimed her brother had been problematic throughout childhood, with troubles exacerbated by excessive alcohol intake and acting out violently. According to his sister, he assaulted instructors and took a pool stick to the head, which resulted in him having to get about 17 staples in his head. "Something isn't right," I constantly told my mother. She believed that he was never the same since that. According to his sister, he didn't have the same level of emotions as he had as a child. Sherlock quickly uncovered Jeffrey Mancuso's aggressive tendencies, as well as his criminal history, which included many assault arrests across various states. Mancuso, she said, would call her the dirtiest names imaginable each day, and the verbal violence would eventually become physical. "He had actually strangled me," she said. "I remember the only time I've ever felt like I was going to die was in the clutches of his arms, and I just prayed," she said. "I remember being like, I'm going to stop breathing soon." She left Mancuso several times and went to live with her parents, according to Sherlock, but she didn't leave permanently for a long. "The reason I didn't really leave was because, who was going to look after my daughter while I was at work?" Jeffrey Mancuso's mother was present and assisted in keeping a watch on both Kayden and her son, according to Sherlock. But when Jeffrey was prosecuted with assault 5 years ago for chewing off a man's ear after a bar brawl, it was the last straw for Sherlock, who decided to leave for good. "I left, like literally packed up my house in a U-Haul on a Monday, said we're getting the hell out of here," she said. Despite her fears for her personal safety at the time, Sherlock never anticipated Mancuso would physically hurt their daughter, so she and him agreed to an informal weekend custody arrangement and he paid her child support. He was devoted to his daughter Kayden, Kathy Sherlock remembers. That was perhaps the only redeeming quality she saw in him. Their daughter loved him and never said anything negative about him. Kathy moved on when Jeffrey Mancuso's life looked to be falling apart, and she fell in love and began a relationship with Brian Sherlock, who fell head over heels, not just for Kathy, but also for her daughter. Outside of court, Jeffrey Mancuso allegedly screamed at Kathy and repeatedly called the cops on her, according to the Sherlocks. He contacted the police station 30 or 40 times, requesting that they come to their home and take Kayden. The cops had to go back to him and tell him, "If you continue to harass them, charges will be filed." Jeffrey Mancuso had also been abusive towards his mother, according to the Sherlocks, and had physically attacked her in front of his daughter. Kayden revealed for the first time, according to Mancuso's sister, that she was terrified of her father at that point and believed he would hurt her. Kayden's mother, determined to keep her daughter safe, applied for a restraining order against Mancuso a little over a year into the custody fight, but she claims her cries were disregarded. She tried everything but the police couldn't help unless there was abuse or neglect. She said she collected witnesses, including her principal, a teacher, and Kayden's soccer coach. Kathy Sherlock claimed she presented all of this information during the custody fight. The judge ordered a psychiatric examination for both parents. Kathy seemed to have anxiety and the court ordered psychiatric assessment, but Jeffrey Mancuso was diagnosed with major depressive illness, mild with anxious disorder, as well as narcissistic and antisocial personality features. Jeffrey Mancuso's visitation should be unsupervised only if he receives mental health treatment, according to a custody evaluator's recommendation to the court. Despite the judge's advice to Mancuso to get assistance, he was granted unsupervised visits and no mental health therapy. Kathy and Brian Sherlock dropped Kayden off to her father's place for the weekend on August 4. The Sherlocks phoned the cops when Mancuso and Kayden didn't show up that Sunday night. "We called the police at 9:16 p.m., Kayden's mom said. "They hung up on me. They said, 'We're not going to go to the house.' He says, 'Is there any reason you feel she's in danger?' I said, 'There's a million reasons why I feel she's in danger,' and he said, 'Have a nice night, ma'am,' and hung up on me." Brian ultimately went to Mancuso's house, where Kayden was staying, and entered through an open back door. That's when he realized the unimaginable had happened. "I got to where the steps, I turned left. And she was just lying there," Kayden's stepdad said, crying. "And I knew she was dead. I knew she was dead." He dialed 911, and police were on the scene within minutes. Everyone turned up. Brian Sherlock stated, but it was too late.
It's breaking news. A 7-year-old girl is found dead in an apparent murder-suicide. Eyewitness News reporter Anita O is at the scene in Manayunk with what we know so far. Anita?
Well, Yuki, this is just a horrific tragedy. A police captain tells me that this scene has shaken some of the most experienced detectives and police commanders. Authorities confirming that a 45-year-old man is dead and a 7-year-old daughter also dead in this apparent murder-suicide. It happened here on the 4500 block of Wild Street in Manayunk. Police say that there was an ongoing bitter custody dispute between the girl's father and mother. She had been dropped off here on Saturday morning and was supposed to come back to her mom's house Sunday night, but her family members grew concerned when she didn't return. So just before 11 this morning, the girl's stepfather made entry into this home and found that horrific scene. A loved one tells me that this little girl was just radiant and extraordinary. She was set to enter 2nd grade at Edgewood Elementary, according to a spokeswoman for the Pennsbury School District, which sent a letter to parents notifying them of grief counseling on Wednesday and Thursday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Neighbors say that this man always seemed happy to have his daughter. Investigators say that they did find a note inside, but those contents are not being released publicly. For now, live in Manayunk, Anita O, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
The little girl's death shocked the Philadelphia community, with relatives and friends questioning why the court let Mancuso have unsupervised visits considering his criminal history and mental illness. According to Mancuso's sister, he should have had supervised visits. A petition demanding for Judge Tragically's dismissal swiftly gathered over 40,000 signatures. It is very unusual for parents with a history of violent crime to be granted unsupervised visitation, as long as they do not demonstrate such conduct toward a child, said the director of Support Center for Child Advocates. Regardless of what the law allows, Kayden's family said that neglecting all of the red flags they offered to safeguard her eventually resulted in her being unable to defend her from her deranged father. According to the Sherlocks, the system must prioritize the protection of children. Kathy feels that the court system protected her ex-husband's right to be a father over her daughter's right to live. She is working on changing laws to help protect children. What this father did to his daughter is unimaginable. Her beautiful young life was cut too short. My condolences to her friends and family. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.